Today we're talking about the Roes Red. So this is a beer that we're really excited about. This is a style that's very near and dear to Winslow's heart. So this is going to be our first true sour beer release. So this was a barrel-aged beer aged in French Pinot Noir barrels that we actually got from Napa.
Flanders Red comes from this town of Roes in Flanders, Belgium. It's an old style. Normally it's a blend of young and old beers. A majority of the beer will be aged in oak vats for about a year and a half and then blended with young beer, and that's what, upon bottling, so the residual sugar in the young beer actually creates the carbonation in the beer. The difference with ours is that it's a single vintage, so there's no young beer being blended in. It's only what is in the barrel.
Yeah, so the bottles we use for this release and for this beer actually are going to be pretty unique. So this is actually a French cuvée bottle that we had to have shipped over from France. As you can see, there's some very unique lines on it. It doesn't look like just your traditional champagne bottle. We really like this. This is a very unique beer, and we obviously had to source and find a very unique special bottle for it. And obviously they cost a little more and it takes a little longer to get them over here. They still ship these things over on a boat from France, so it takes about 2 months just to get these over. But we think it's going to be a really good presentation for this beer, and with the 29mm crown, we think it's going to pour really well as well.
There's actually 3 different distinct barrels that are in the bottles. Which one you get is a surprise. But they will all have like a slightly different flavor to them. One might be more acidic, one might be more, cherry forward or fruit forward. One might have more date and fig maltiness to it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the different barrels turn out.
We also got some larger format versions of the same bottle to, kind of age, put in our cellar, and then we can pull some of these guys out at later dates for special events and stuff like that. So look for some of these big guys going forward at some of our special events and different things that we have.
Most of my beers that are on the draft menu, the standard beers, I usually like to keep them very simple in their malt background, mainly focusing on the 2-row base malt, whereas the Roes Red has a very complex backbone to it. There's about 7 different grains of varying colors. There's wheat in there, both German and Belgian malts. So it makes it for a very complex background that the yeast and bacteria cultures can chew on for a long time and create a very complex beer.
So labeling on these bottles is actually a little complex because of the curves to the bottle. There's not a whole lot of flat surface area, so it really restricts the area that you can label on. It's not super simple to apply, it's not super simple to design. So we really kind of went with a minimalist design on our label, which actually fits pretty well with our brand, which is fairly minimalist. The actual design itself pays homage to the town of Roes, where the actual beer style comes from. So the cross that you see is actually a variation of the cross used in the flag and the coat of arms for the actual town of Roes in Belgium.
So the name Roes Red, it comes from, it's R-O-E-S, so it's a little shout out to the town of Roes, which is R-O-E-S-E-L-A-R-E, which is where Flanders Red originated. I'm also a big Stephen King fan, so the made-for-TV movie Roes Red was about this house that was ever-changing. It was kind of based off the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, where it's always adding rooms to itself, and the story was it was built, the whole entire life of this lady, and then it just kept building itself after she passed away. So I kind of like the idea of how it's an ever-changing beer in the sense that the yeast is always changing, the barrels are always changing, and it creates, vintages of the beer.
We look to definitely have this beer available a lot more going forward in the future. This is something that we definitely want to continue to grow as our production and as our capabilities grow. So definitely look for this beer a lot more going forward into our future.